You're listening to Lunch with the Finance Bunch, bringing money talk you can understand. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. I'm your host, Miss Charline, and I have my co-host over there, DJ Bander. How you doing, DJ Bander?
Doing great, Charline. How are we doing today?
I'm doing really well. You know, today on our show, this is one of the topics that I think is recurring with us, and we're going to take it to a more microscopic level today.
Nice.
And that subject that we're going to talk about today is how we create income, right? And how we create multiple streams of income.
Yes.
Multiple streams of income is important for a number of reasons. You know, I was on my way here today and I was listening to the news. And on the news, they were talking about people losing their jobs and pensions going away and things like that. And when your pension goes away, when this is something you've been looking forward to your entire life so that you can retire, that's devastating. Now you have to figure out how to maintain your lifestyle for the rest of your life without that significant income.
Exactly.
With young people, that cushion isn't going to be there when they get ready to retire.
Yeah.
Right? And jobs are so unsteady. And, you know, I don't want to take it to a negative, but I like for people to be prepared. So we're going to take the multiple streams of income topic. And with our guest today, we're really going to explore that.
Absolutely. No, I like that. And like we talked about before, multiple streams of income, a strong cash cushion.
Yes.
So that you have, like you know, you've mentioned before, that you go into a situation where, like, let's say you're asking for a raise or a different position or looking for a different job, you're in a position of strength and not in a position of desperation and weakness. You
Absolutely, because I tell you this, your employer, whoever you are interviewing with, they see you coming. Like there's an aura that's around desperation and there's an aura that's around confidence.
Yes.
And they don't look the same.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you want to be in the best position to negotiate if you are choosing to get another job by having that cash cushion. And, you know, you can do it several ways. So your passion can fuel your progress, right? And your progress can fuel your passion. So today we're going to have a guest come in and he's going to talk about, you know, how he created the level of success that he's at. And he's very interesting because his passion fueled his income and his income fueled his passion.
I love that.
You know, so we're definitely going to talk about that. You and I also talk a lot about, you know, different ways of acquiring multiple streams of income through stocks, bonds, mutual funds, right? But also you can accomplish that by having a side hustle.
That's right.
Right? There's nothing wrong with a side hustle.
Absolutely.
Right? I find it very not just entertaining because you can do something that you really enjoy, but you can make money at it.
Absolutely. And I tell people, of course, a brokerage account is great for growing wealth, but nothing grows your brokerage account like adding money to it.
Exactly.
And the way to do that is to have a side business.
Exactly.
So, you know, I'm always telling people that it's like, absolutely. Yeah, of course, bonds and stocks and all that stuff will help you grow what's there, but it'll grow much faster if you're adding to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And sometimes just our regular paycheck just doesn't cut it.
Just doesn't.
You know, it'll pay the bills, you know, but it may not be enough for an emergency fund. It won't be enough for a cash cushion and not enough for investing.
That's right.
And when we can get to that level, now we're really, really on the road to success.
And for people to understand, you know, we really try to make this clear here on the Finance Bunch that, you know, it's not as hard and as difficult. I think we talk about this. A lot of people look at investing and having different multiple streams of income as this, like, it's only for the super privileged, the super wealthy.
No, it's not.
And it's really not. So many of these people started from simple jobs and then they had a side business and they just grew it. And it's more achievable than you think, you know, and I think that's really important. And we love bringing these guests on who can show these are regular people with smart ideas and they just didn't give up and they kept pushing. And that's what allowed them to achieve it. It wasn't from, you know,
a nest egg
or like hit the lottery. Yeah. Like, you know, and because being smart with money, you know, there are people who came from nothing and have made tons of money for themselves. And there's people that have come from lots of money and inheritance and have nothing now, or they blew it.
Right.
So literally the amount of money that you come from or your opportunities you've had really doesn't translate to like where you're going to be at financially in 5 years. I really try to express that. It's your day-to-day decisions, not your opportunities that you might have come from.
Yeah, you know, there's a gentleman who, he's passed on now, but he was really one of the people I had so much respect for. He was a gentleman that, grew up in the South. He wasn't educated. He was a janitor at a high school. And when he passed, he owned several homes.
Wow.
When he retired, he played golf every day.
I love it.
Okay, and he didn't have to worry about money. And he learned how to read at church as an adult.
Very interesting.
So it's not how you start, it's what you do along the way. It's not what was given to you, it's what you're able to preserve.
Of course.
Right? And so what we need is a roadmap. I feel like with the roadmap, that creates a equalization. I feel like that creates an equal playing field for everyone. If you have the map and you know how to get there, nothing can stop you.
And something I love to express to our listeners is you can't be afraid to talk about it.
Yes.
That's why we're here on this show, because at the end of the day, if you're afraid to talk about it and it makes you uncomfortable, then you can't deal with the holes in your plan and your strategy.
That's right.
And we want to try to, on this show, we really want to get rid of the weird feelings around talking about money and let people understand that it's okay to talk about these things. And the quicker you get over those fears and anxieties, the quicker you get to your own success.
And it's okay to start at ground one.
Right.
That's cool. You don't have to have the perfect credit score. You don't have to have
Exactly.
this large amount of money in the bank. You just have to have the desire to want to and the ability to be honest and say, this is where I am, and take the roadmap and take it to where you want it to be.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we have our guests waiting. I cannot wait to talk to this gentleman. Like I said, he's awesome. So I think we should bring him in.
Sounds like a great plan.
We'll be right back. Okay, so we're back in the studio with our special guest, Ayinde. And, I wanted to say this. I've been looking so forward to meeting you in person. I looked online. I saw all of your accolades, or some of the accolades that you've shared with the public, and I find your story fascinating. Ayinde Howell, and I'm going to say this slowly so you really get what this gentleman has done. He's an actor, both stage and television, producer, writer, chef, and entrepreneur. His recipes have been published in the New York Times, Essence, and Vegan News. He supports nonprofits. He was raised vegan, and he was homeschooled. Some of his accolades or credits as an actor have been Dear White People, Brooklyn 99, Single Parents, Legends and Lies, and that was a powerful performance.
Oh, thank you.
In Legends and Lies. I saw that, wow. He has also been a part of several theater productions, including most recently a 2-man improv, Gentrification, Ghetto, Art Your Truth.
Yeah.
My resume's stacked over there.
Okay. Ayinde.
I forget all the stuff I've done.
See, that's why it's good for this, right? Ayinde, his most recent accomplishment is his mac and yeast. It's vegan macaroni and cheese. It's sold in all of the WholeFoods stores in California. Yeah. Congratulations and welcome to our show. That is such an accomplishment.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Good. And I just want to jump into it because you are truly the essence of multiple streams of income. You are starting to master it.
Yeah. I was having this conversation the other day, and I was saying that it's really just kind of all starting to come together.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Most of my life, people are like, well, I thought you was a chef. Well, I thought you was an actor. What do you do? You all over the place. But I always, I'm that generation. They say we're ADD, but I personally, and this is a little off topic, but I personally feel like people who they call ADD are just evolving.
Oh, I like that.
You know
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
say
saying?
that absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? We can do multiple things.
Of
That's what it is.
course.
It's like, why give drugs to someone and slow it down? This is and I'm gonna come back, but I just need to say this because you don't see evolution in real time. You see it in history.
That's right.
We're gonna look back and be like, well, why do we drug all these kids?
Right. And I hate the phrase jack of all trades because you can be a master of many trades.
That's right.
And I really believe in that.
Yeah.
So
same.
I'd like to ask you a little bit just about yourself. You know, where are you from originally? How did you get to Los Angeles? What's your background?
I'm originally from Tacoma, Washington, small town in the Pacific Northwest, and we got there because there's a military base up there, and my uncle was stationed up there, and my grandfather lived up there, and so that's how we kind of migrated up that way.
Interesting.
And so I grew up in Tacoma, Seattle area, and then I left Seattle, I left Seattle in 2006 2006, and I lived in New York for a long time.
That's my town. That's our town.
Yeah. So I was in Brooklyn. I was in Bed-Stuy for
nice.
for like until 2013. I moved right before they built the Barclays Center.
We'll love it.
So right before the rents like went through the roof.
Yeah.
And then I tried Seattle again, and I was just like, I think I need a little bit more, because after New York, like you need that like
That's stimulation.
Yeah. You can't
need
go.
that.
You can't go to that tier 2 city after
Exactly.
that.
No,
Exactly.
You got to stay tier 1.
Exactly.
I already
Say
know.
tier 2. I heard that.
Yeah, that's what it's technically called.
Okay.
There's tier 1 cities, tier 2. nothing against them. It's
No.
Right.
In terms of metropolis, absolutely. I mean,
it's true.
I feel like once you've had that New York experience, like you're pretty much just gonna do LA, or you're gonna
Exactly.
do maybe like a Miami. That's
Well,
what's up.
it's a pace thing too.
Totally.
Yeah,
Right?
but and it's also like a population. Like the people who gravitate to those cities are of a certain mindset.
Right.
Yes.
And Seattle has its fair share.
Very
of,
progressive up in Seattle.
Yeah, very
I've been
much
up
so.
there. I spent some time in the city and in Bellevue. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful city.
It is. There's like 2 lakes in the middle of the city.
Yeah, it's gorgeous in the
mountains and
summer.
stuff. Yeah, it's very nice.
So how did you enjoy growing up there? Did you enjoy growing up there?
I mean, when I was growing up, Seattle was, we had nothing really going on there. It was a town of like all the sports teams. It was like the next year town. It was like, oh, next year we're going to get something.
Right.
Next year we're going to get something. And like concerts didn't come up there. And then, the thing that really brought attention to Seattle when I was growing up was grunge.
Right.
Grunge
Right.
hit and people were like, oh, okay, there's music up there. But there was so much more. So that started to bring attention, and then there's like there's always been an underground hip hop scene up there.
It's a big hip hop scene up there.
Yeah.
It's not really known, but it's great.
Yeah, and it always pulled influence from like the Bay Area and kind of everywhere. So it has its own its own thing. That's I think why like every couple decades, we'll spit out a rapper. And people like, oh wow, look at this person.
Totally.
The last one was Macklemore.
Right.
But Macklemore used to like literally do sell CDs out of his backpack at shows. There was a place called Sit and Spin. It was a venue and a laundromat.
Wow. Wow. Talk about being creative.
And there was
that's fresh.
they did shows there on Sunday. And like all the kids would go down there and do their little shows and sell their little stuff. So, yeah.
Wow.
But Seattle. It was isolated though.
Okay.
It was very isolated, and so people.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, like it creates a certain type, because like it's further north, so it gets dark really early. It gets dark in the wintertime. It get dark at like 4:30.
Wow.
We were just like you were forced to do creative stuff. Like you're in the house, you like creating music.
Yeah, and it's a cold winter too.
Exactly, it's a cold winter. The summers were great, but it created this thing of like you're constantly kind of like finding ways to enjoy life, because
Right.
otherwise you're just going to be depressed.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because it's just gray and kind of drizzles all day.
Yep.
Now I had a question because this wasn't clear for me. Did your family own restaurants? Or-
Yeah, we owned a restaurant.
Okay.
Growing up, so it started off as a convenience store. My grandfather owned a convenience store, passed it down. My dad ended up taking it over, and say pass it down, but he actually had to sell it to his sons because he was caught up in some food stamp fraud. Because we was hustlers back in the day.
That's gonna be the follow-up
Okay.
episode.
Exactly.
That's
Talk about fascinating
How
story.
to avoid fraud.
exactly.
It's a fascinating
We'll see you
story.
next week. Yeah.
But anyway, but so it was a convenience store for the longest, but like they raised us vegan, and so they were like, oh, my mom, after I think we were about 12 or 13, my mom was like, I think we should try to sell this food that we make at home.
Right.
And then also there was a big gang culture there, and so she wanted something for us to not to keep up our time, like me and my sisters.
Right. Yeah.
So she bought this like old restaurant that was like kind of broken down and kind of used it as a kitchen, and she just put us in there and we would work. My first job in the kitchen was making potato salad. That was like the thing that I did, and we made this like vegan food, and she went and sold it. And she went and sold it. She went and sold it out like the back of at the back of the minivan. She would go to stores and whatnot, and so that was like my very first peek into like, oh, this is something you can do with food. Because then I started going with her and doing deliveries and stuff.
Now, when did you become vegan?
I was born into it.
Okay.
So I think probably the better question is, when did I decide to stay vegan?
That is a better question, because if you were
yeah.
born into it, when did you decide to stay vegan?
So when I was probably like mid-teens, right? I don't know. People ask me this question a lot, but like I never was really like, oh man, I gotta go have some McDonald's or kind of whatever. Like I enjoyed the food that my mom made,
Right.
and I was more interested in just doing other things. And so I think more as an adult, it was the time when I was really, I'd say, tested. And I in working as a chef and then working, and when you work as a chef and you work in kitchens and, you work with meat and things like that. And I did for a small time. And I was just like, oh, no, I'm good.
Right, so you had
you
had some meat and some fish, and you were just like,
I worked with it.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying, like being in proximity and just
So
sort of
you've never tasted
understanding
it?
it. I've had fish. I've accidentally had fish. I've accidentally had egg. I don't know if I've ever had like full on chicken though. I don't think I've ever had like full on chicken.
well, the vegan process interests me because though I do eat meat, I like I like my steak and my chicken. During the beginning of the week, I like to do the Meatless Monday thing, and I like to stay with like my Greek salads earlier in the week. And I do think it makes you feel lighter going into the week.
Yeah.
Is it something that what kind of benefits have you seen for your lifestyle? I mean, obviously it's the only thing you know. But
Yeah, but I mean, working I think my time working as a personal chef is probably where it speaks the most to. And because I worked with a singer, I worked with India Irie for like 2 years, and like our whole thing was like keep energy up, keep weight down, keep the skin clear, that kind of thing. And so what I noticed she was as vegan as much as she wanted to be or needed to be, right? But what I noticed is that it does. If you look at the body like athletes look at their body, right, and the fuel that you put into it,
right,
versus and just looking at like how much energy does it take to break down animal protein versus how much energy it takes to
it takes a lot more. That's why you feel it in your stomach.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly, because your body's working. It's working.
Exactly.
It's working to
Makes you
break it
tired.
down. Yeah, it makes you it makes you tired because your body's like, okay, I gotta break all this stuff down. So if you just think about it from more of a scientific perspective, it's like, oh well, if I'm putting plants in my body, it's gonna go through cleaner.
Yeah.
It's gonna come out clean. It's gonna give me the energy that I need. Because like
I can't even eat meat without salad.
right.
Like if I have a steak or if I have some chicken and I skip my greens,
Yeah.
I feel I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Like, and so like for a long, I always make sure I get a full salad first, and I try to fill up more on the salad.
Yeah.
And then I'll eat like half the meat, and I
Yeah.
always feel better when I
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. It's interesting because like I think when people, I've never been a person to be like, yo, just be all vegan, blah, blah, blah. But I tell people like, you just have to look at the plate differently. We can look at our plate as like meat has to be this big, and then there's like my little grains and my little salad.
Yeah, it's a psychological thing.
Exactly. It's like, it's just what's been advertised to you,
Right.
but your body will tell you what you need.
What you need.
Yeah.
Now, when did you open your first restaurant or cafe?
In Seattle in 1999, the very, very last like quarter of 99 in Seattle. And I've been working in my parents' business and like delivering food and whatnot. And I was like, oh, there's so much potential here. I think we should like have a cafe. And I told my mom that. She's like, oh, well, you should just go open one. I was like, what? Because they're very entrepreneurial minded, but I was very much like, I don't know, can I do that? Like, how do you do that?
Right.
And so she was like, yeah, just go find a place. And I was like, okay. So I was in my route and I was driving around, and I found this place and it had a for rent sign on it. And I went in and I got a number and I talked to the guy. And literally it was like a week between having the conversation and this happening. And the guy was like, I'm trying to get out of this restaurant. Y'all want to buy it? And I was like, I gotta talk to my mom now.
Right.
How old were you?
I was 21.
Okay.
I still didn't know what the hell I was doing. But anyway, my parents ended up giving me like, they ended up selling it for like $5,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they sold the business for like $5,000. That was, and then so we got in there, and I didn't have money to do remodels or anything like that. But it was kind of turnkey.
Okay.
So put a new sign on it, put my menu in there, and then I just really realized I had no idea what I was doing. But I was open every day, and I was by the University of Washington.
Oh, so you had foot traffic.
Yeah, so people would come by.
What would you serve them?
So I did. It was sandwiches. So by the time that business had grown, we had specialized in like sandwiches. It's like different type of grab and go sandwiches. So I was like, oh, hot sandwiches, and then like soul food side dishes. So
I like that.
That's where I very first started selling mac and cheese. That's where and I did like like fried rice and greens and kind of different potato salad things.
Sounds
like that.
good, man.
Yeah. So it was just like get a sandwich, get a little side, blah blah blah. That was like my whole jam.
Sounds like a little tender greenish.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
man.
But better because I
Yeah.
don't think they have good mac and cheese over at 10.
No, they don't.
They don't. I'm trying
So.
to get to them too. I'm like, hey, holla at your boy. But yeah, there's a and in the daytime when people weren't in there and like I was just there all the time, I would just started playing my music, which was like hip hop, and I would play like hip hop loud, and the people would come in and like, what is happening here? Like people didn't
Right.
understand it back then. But nowadays, you go to any place and it's like they blasting hip hop, and I'm like,
That's right.
I'm like, oh y'all my sons, man, like all y'all,
Yes.
But yeah, but that was the place. That was and I was there for like 6 years.
Wow.
6 years,
That's
yeah.
so cool.
And over time, we started to. I knew a local promoter in Seattle, and he would have me like start catering like green rooms for people. And so I got to, that's when I first started like meeting celebrities and sort of like, that whole thing of like just getting the picture with the celebrity with your product, there was no Instagram back then. So like it was
Right.
like when you saw it, people were like,
Turn use.
yeah, people were like, oh wow, this guy's famous. And I'm like, no, I just brought him a sandwich, but that's
But it worked.
but it worked, yeah. And it helped like sort of build the the clout or the mystique of the place, and people were like, oh man, I heard so and so eats here.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And then is that when you transitioned from moving from there to New York?
Yeah, so by the time after like year 6, I was just I've been working in the business like I said since I was like 13. I was like, well, I think I've done food enough, so I'm out. Hang my jersey in the rafters. I'm out. And I moved to New York, and I was like, I'm never cooking again. And for a while, I didn't. I had to, in between time, I started making music, and I was acting and all that sort of stuff. And so I started doing that in New York. And I started working. I landed a film within 6 months of being there, like a principal. Yeah. Oh, it was a Cinderella story. It was like a principal lead in a feature film for. And it was the people who did Afropunk. And it was their second. It was his second film, and it was a narrative feature. Ooh. And so and I just kind of hustled my way into it, just like I met him one night after.
That's a true New York story.
That is a true New York story. So when we come back, we want to hear that true New York story.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Charline.
And I am DJ Bander.
And we're on Dash Talk X. And we'll be right back. And we are back in the studio with Ayinde. And we were talking about when he moved to New York and what happened there. And so now when you moved to New York, is that when you studied theater? Is that that part? Okay.
So when I moved to New York, I had like a hit list of people I wanted to work with. Okay. And Afropunk was like right at the top of the list. And I went to the Brooklyn Museum on First Fridays.
Okay.
And I happened to see dude, and I was like, oh wow, that's him. So I wiggled my way into a conversation he was having with some people, and we were just kind of chatting, blah blah blah. And come to find out, he was in Crown Heights, I was in Bed-Stuy, so it was like the A train, and so he was like, he was kind of like, okay, cool, man, yeah, whatever, nice meeting you, whatever. And then I was also, one of my other hustles was I was like a list guy at Joe's Pub on Tuesday nights.
You had a lot of jobs.
I had a lot of hustles when I got to New
sure
York.
did.
Yeah.
You got to.
That's so cool though.
You got to pay that rent.
Gotta pay that rent. Gotta live.
And that's like how I got to know people too. So I was coming home one night, and he was on the train. And I was like, hey man, remember me? He was like, not really.
That's what I miss about New York. It's so real. No, I don't remember you. Next.
So he was like, yeah, I'm working on this. He was like, yeah, I got this feature film, and I don't know, I'm stressing me out. And I was like, oh, I'm an actor. I'd love to, audition for it. He's like, okay, you might work. Gave him my email, nothing. And then one night, this is true. I'm at Joe's Pub, and I'm at the door, and I hear over my ear like this lady's smoking a cigarette. She's like, oh, I'm so stressed out. I'm casting James Spooner's new movie, and we haven't found the lead yet. And I was like. I told the security, I was like, hold on line. And I go over to her, and I'm like, I don't mean to interrupt, but I overheard what you just said, and I would love to audition for this part. And she's like, okay, yeah, you might work, yeah. So she gives me the size, her email.
That's how you do it, bro.
Yeah, she gives me the email. I email her. It's Tuesday. The interview's Friday, and she gives me she's like, I'm gonna email you tonight. I go home, and I didn't have internet at the house, right? Because I was stealing it off of my neighbor at the time, and so I had to go down to the local cafe and like sit outside at 3 a.m.
That's so real.
This is still a true story. So I'm sitting outside and I'm downloading the sides, and Chadwick Boseman used to live in the neighborhood too. So he walks by and he's like, "Hey, what you doing?" I was like, "I got to get these sides, bro." He was like, "I hear you." So he keeps on walking home, and then I get the sides and I go back to the house and I go in on Friday. I feel like I kill it. Anyway, I didn't hear nothing for like a week, and then then they call me back for a callback, and I'm like, I feel like I killed it again, and they were like, nothing. And then I called a guy. I called James, and I was like, "Yo, so what's up?" And he says, "Yeah, we like you." I had locks at the time. He was like, "Yeah, we like you, but we don't know if you fit the look." And I was like, "Well, I can." He's like, "Would you be cut down and cut your hair?" And I was like, "Yes." That's how much I wanted, and also I felt like I was at the time I wanted to change, and so I was like, all right, and so we did it, and the movie ended up premiering at Toronto International Film Festival in 2007. Wow. So it was dope. We didn't get distribution, but we did a bunch of film festivals and stuff, and so it was really fun. But that was like early on, like moving to New York, and then from there after that, I was like, oh, I should probably study this, and then like. On the heels of that, the recession happened.
Yes.
So I went back to. So I was like, well, I had to get a job because all the creative stuff dried up. There was like nobody was making independent films. Nobody was making nothing. Yeah. I was like, so then, at the same time, the yoga studio I practiced at had a whole half of their floor that was like a cafe, and they were like, and somebody heard that I used to be a vegan chef, and they were like, hey, do you want to run this? And I was like, no, thank you. And because I didn't want to cook anymore.
Right.
Yeah, but then like it came up again, and they were like, and then it was right kind of on the heels of me needing a job, and so I was like, all right. And then I made a deal with myself because I don't like working for people. I made a deal with myself. I was like, well, if I'm gonna work for these people, I'm gonna take this income and I'm gonna put it back into myself. And that's when I started acting school, and I did a 2-year program while I was an executive chef.
So I wanted to stop you right there because that's the part sometimes people miss. Is that you did not want to work for someone, but your why was so that you would have the income so that you could pursue your passion.
And we all know that's the first step to entrepreneurship.
That's the first step there.
Yeah. No, I had to, because I say this, and I've said this before, like, your revolution, anybody's revolution has to be financed. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna.
That's
like,
right.
I was like, I have no income. Yeah. So, but I knew what I wanted to do long term, and I was like, well, there's only the best part about this is I can further my skills, and it was rough. I mean, like I said, I
want to ask you because you mentioned the recession, and we talk about obviously the economy. Not all parts are on good times. There's hard times everywhere. So tell me a little bit about the costs and the margins of your product of the mac and cheese, and how do you do that? Like how do you what has led to the success of how you can have high quality food but at low cost? Because obviously the profits are all in that margin difference of what you can sell it at.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I'll be honest. Like my goal for the type of food that I put out, I have higher standards. So I eat some of my profit in the quality that I put out.
Right, of course.
Because it has to taste good and it has to stand out. And so the way that but it's volume, and this is that I didn't understand going in because this is a whole new part of the business. Like I said, I've been a chef for 20 years, but I had never been in this part of the business. Even my family's business of like hustling food and selling stuff retail where you have to buy it back if it doesn't sell.
Right.
But this particular part of the business, I sell it to them. It's like you go to a restaurant and they may throw away that salad or that meat that you don't eat, but they bought it.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that guy got his money. And so I was like, oh,
that's how it's
this
done.
is the part I want to be in, right?
Yeah.
But you have to, it's volume and you have to sell it out of it. And so my organization is very slim. It's me and my assistant, and then I bring in people as I need them.
Right. So your CapEx is low.
Exactly.
Capital expenditures.
Exactly.
So let's go back to the beginning of this.
Yes.
Mac and Yeast.
Yes.
How did you pick the name Mac and Yeast?
The name was actually kind of been, I think my dad kind of floated it around early.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Like, so back in CA, yeah. So he was like, it's like mac and cheese, but with yeast. So we're going to call it Mac and Yeast. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so, like I said, so like from me doing the recipe from way back in Seattle to like constantly just doing it over and over and over and over again, I've evolved it to where it is.
To perfecting it.
Yeah, to where it is today. Yeah.
Now,
That's cool.
Brittany, our social media guru over there, she said she saw you in Woodland Hills doing a training.
Yes.
Right? And so the training, is that a part of how you because you're in all of the stores in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
How many stores are there in Southern California? Because I was trying to find it, and I said
102.
102. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in 102 stores.
I think. No, wait. That might be the total of the whole region. I think it's probably more like 90 something.
90 or 100. That's a lot.
Yeah. So again, when starting a new business, like the unforeseen issues come up, and so the first thing was, out of all the stores that I'm in, right? So think about that. That's you have your morning team, your night team, your weekend team. You have rotating people. That's a lot of people that have to communicate and understand. Like, hey, this isn't the same as the other mac and cheese that you see, because like there's different ways of cooking things. They have steam cooking, there's dry cooking, there's all sorts of stuff. And so like, but these places they're like high volume restaurants. So people and you got to pump food out. It's just like it doesn't matter. But my product is quite delicate, and so like I have to go in and I tell people like this is how you do it. Like this is, and because I worked in a restaurant, I can account for like, hey, if you're going super fast and you have your oven set at 400 because of X, Y, and Z, do it either before or after you've done everything else. Or because I can kind of troubleshoot because I know how kitchens work.
Yes.
So when I go in and train the chefs, I go in and I just try to find language that they can relate to. I'm like, this is like X, or this is like Y, and they're like, oh, okay, I understand.
That's super cool.
And you have to, so I have, from the first rollout, I learned a lot about communication,
right?
And how to communicate people about how to handle the product. And so I have a 10-page like PDF of like instructions. I recently did a cooking video, and then I still go in and talk to people. Okay. Because people don't care.
No, they don't.
And really it's like, and it's not like, that's not even a diss on people. It's like, there's so much going on, and it's just like, I guess I got to get the next thing out, and I've been in those situations. I've been in restaurants, and I know how that feels to be like, I don't know what this is, but it looks like it's good. On to the next.
Well, I would think that I would just think that so much of this is like a political campaign in a sense, right? Like in the sense, it's like you're running almost like a grassroots operation to get people to understand the value of your brand. I see that you were at Coachella last year. Yeah. Were you there just for the experience of Coachella, or were you there to kind of like also did you sell the food there?
Yeah. So it was for the brand. So I did Coachella last year.
Nice.
So there was actually there's a story that I wanted to kind of talk about with this too. So that was when I first got the WholeFoods account, and we did an event for them where they kind of have all their heads come together in Arizona, and so there was a mismatch with them getting all the product that they were supposed to get. So my factory made it; they didn't get all the products. I had a surplus of product. And in my mind, my hustle mentality, I was like, I got to make this money back. How can I get this?
Exactly.
I've been doing Eat Drink Vegan, which is a festival for like three years. And the same people who run the food at Coachella.
Where's that at?
Eat Drink Vegan they have it at Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. Nice. Rose Bowl. And it's just a big food and alcohol and beer festival. Yes. Anyway, I've done it for a couple of years, and I know the people who run it, and they also run the food at Coachella. So I called up my guy, and I was like, hey, can I get into Coachella? And he was like, yeah, you can do it with a food truck. And, he kind of hooked it up. And which is how I love working like that. Yes. I'm like, yo, what's up? Can I get it? But so we get out there, and I'm selling, and I'm set up, and I'm selling food out of the out of my friend's food truck. We kind of partnered up. But it was one of the most taxing experiences that I've had.
Coachella's tiring.
It's don't believe in pictures.
Right. Okay, I know. I was there.
And it's hot.
It's hot,
and you're walking
and dusty.
And
yes, it's crazy.
It's a desert.
But the pictures
are beautiful.
Worked.
Yes.
Right. So that week, between the first and the second week of Coachella last year, we announced WholeFoods. Okay. And it was just this whirlwind. Right. People were like, "Oh my God, he's at Coachella. Oh my God, he's at WholeFoods. Oh shit, what? He's everywhere. How is he doing it?"
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I got sick as a dog after the first week of Coachella because like got that desert fever, whatever you call it. Yeah. So I was like, it was crazy for me, but like the optics were great. Right. And so it's true to what you're saying because I'm like, I have to, because I'm not the only vegan mac and cheese out there, you know, so I'm building brand awareness.
You're selling yourself at the same time you're selling the brand.
Exactly. So like when people, you know, when people buy Pepsi because it's Pepsi, or Coke because it's Coke. It's a cola. You could get any cola.
Exactly. And it
you know,
tastes the same.
You can go to any fast food restaurant and get the same burger, but like you're buying the brand that you're buying. And so I've realized that, and I'm like, I have to, that part has to be present.
Yes. So how did you get into Whole Foods? How did you do that?
So react, just thinking about it is stressing them out. It's complicated.
Yeah, right.
Must have been a process.
It was the easiest part was actually landing the account. And so another I have these very serendipitous moments in my life as I look back. But a couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to, I was looking at wealth and I was like, the people who make the most wealth have either intellectual property or real property or a mix of both.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, what am I good at? The thing I've been doing almost every day for most of my career has been making mac and cheese, so I know I'm good at this.
Yes.
And so I was trying to figure out like what was the best way to sell, and I've looked at retail and I've looked at different things for a long time, couldn't quite figure it out. And I was going to actually, Brittany used to work this yoga spot, and I was supposed to go to yoga on Sunday, and I was like, I'm just gonna get some vegan ice cream and pig out. And so I went to this place called out in Glendale. And I'm just eating, it's called Yoga Earth, and I'm just eating ice cream by myself, and I'm just like kind of literally sitting down just thinking about like my future. Yeah. And then the owner is like, hey, I think some of your friends are out back. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go back and just other influencers and vegan people and whatever. So they're doing a tasting and picture taking kind of thing. And so I'm chatting, and then someone introduces me to this woman named Megan, and they're like, oh, she's, you know, you should meet him. He has this great mac and cheese. And she was like, oh yeah, I work at WholeFoods, and you know, we might be looking for a vegan mac and cheese.
Oh, that's the plug.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, you know, like at the time, this means nothing. I'm like, everybody wants some vegan mac and cheese, cool, whatever. So she says, yeah, here's my card. You know, maybe we can have you come in and do a tasting. I was like, all right, cool. So I email her. Very similar story, right? I email her Monday, and she's like, yeah, can you come in on Wednesday? I said, okay, cool. I go in on Wednesday. I do my tasting, you know, and again, I've done this for so long, and I know how to present, I know how to cater and all this stuff. So it was like, boom, here's a spread, this is everything. Right. Tell me what you guys think. So we get done with the meeting, and the lead guy, he's like, well, this is great. We were going to go with someone else, but I think we're going to go with you. So listen, we need to get about 2,800 pounds of this per week. Can you do that? I said, yep. And I walk outside. I'm like, oh my God, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And so I'm like Googling. I'm like trying to figure out like what did I just say?
What's the metrics on this?
How do I even do this? And so, but say yes first.
That's right.
Get the bag first and then figure it out.
Because the money's coming in.
Yeah, like
time for 5 more chefs.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna figure it out. So and so I'm trying to I'm trying to figure out how to do this, and then I find co-manufacturers and co-packers and things like that. And so for people who are interested in this part of the business, like that's a major part.
Right.
Co-manufacturing. So like when you go to Trader Joe's, right, and you get the frozen food or you get that prepackaged food, like that's made by a big factory by someone who packages it and does it for people, right?
Right.
Because I knew I wanted it to be bigger than me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is there like an off ramp for you with this, in the sense of like the idea, not that you'd want to, but that you would or have been approached at some point by some sort of conglomerate, or that Whole Foods would want to make your recipe a Whole Foods brand and just buy you out of the whole product itself?
They haven't done that yet,
right.
And I've thought about it, and I think that and when I started my business, the first person I hired was a lawyer. The second person I hired was an accountant. So
please say that again.
Yeah. That's it.
The first person is the lawyer.
The second person was an accountant. And because I've done it the wrong way many times, right? When I had my own cafe, I was doing everything, and then the books were all over the place. And like people can't look at your business and be like, okay, this is viable. This is viable.
Exactly.
So I want to have that in place so that people can look at the business and be like, okay, I can see where this makes money, and and see the value.
Yes.
So I started that early on. And so if it does happen down the road, then I'll be ready, but I haven't, and it's, because people, all the books that talk about get your exit strategy together, because you don't know you say now you want it, forever, but then forever comes and you're like, I want to do something else.
Right.
So, but it's like in music when they say own your masters. Like I own my recipe. Like nobody has that recipe.
Yes.
Right.
And I want to, keep that. And I'm interested in the side of like, how can I build on that? Like how can I, how can I build? But you need money though. I mean, you look at I look at these bigger vegan food companies, and they're getting millions of dollars dumped into them. But they're also a technology company, basically.
Right.
I'm not necessarily a technology company. I'm a food company.
Right.
So it's different.
So did you ever think about partnering?
I've thought about it. I don't know with whom I would partner. Right now, for me,
should go on Shark Tank, bro.
Or like having an investor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I met with a bunch of investors, and when I did this expo called Expo West earlier this year, and a lot of investors came by, and a lot of investors were like, "Hey, man, bootstrap it till you no longer can."
Right.
Cool.
They were like, as soon as you take my money, I'm going to tell you what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's facts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, facts. I got you.
So the lesson in that is bootstrap it till you can't anymore.
Yeah.
Because when you bring in an investor, it's no longer your company. It's now a partnership. Our company. And that you could lose some of your vision in doing that.
You could, but I feel like there's also an upside too, because like one of my advisors was telling me, she's like, probably the first thing they would do is put in a CEO, which and move you to R&D, like lead R&D, right?
Yes.
And I think about all the stuff I have to think about as a business owner, as the CEO, and the lead R&D, and the social media guy, and I'm like, maybe that's not a bad idea.
Right.
Maybe that's not so bad, and so I think you have to like figure out, like you got to figure out what battles you want to fight, because I would still own the company,
Right.
and people, and I do believe like Diddy says, like surround yourself with the smartest people in the
That's
room.
right.
Sure.
Because you don't have to do everything, and I understand. The more and more, the older I get, the more I understand. Like I don't have to do everything.
I've been learning that too. It's such an important lesson that we preach about to entrepreneurs, because it's like, don't be afraid to be like, okay, this is what I'm best at, and this is what I'm not so good at, and finding the people that are best at those things you're not so good at.
Right.
And
Plus it's just going to increase your creative side and your ability to spend more time on what you're passionate about.
You have more bandwidth. You're
Exactly.
not thinking about like, oh, when is this check coming, or who's doing this? It's like, that's you
handled.
do that.
It's flowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
when we come back, we want to continue this conversation because it's getting juicy. I'm Charline.
And I'm DJ Bander.
And we'll be right back. So we're back in the studio with the gentleman who created Mac and Yee's, Ayinde. And we're talking about how he brought together this very successful business. And we're at the point, I want to know this from you. What is I Eat Grass?
So I Eat Grass is the name of the company, but it's also, so when I was back to the New York part of the story, when I was working as a chef in New York, and then after 3 years, I was like, okay, my time for working for you is over.
Right.
Even though I did like that check, that regular check every couple of weeks was really great. But I could, like they started to like take away my creative abilities. So I was like, I gotta go. But after I left, I was like, and this was right when blogs were popular,
Yes.
and like Twitter had just started. And so I was like, well, I got to let people know where I am.
Yes.
So I launched I Eat Grass as a blog, and that was really just to like put up recipes and let people know like how to find me and that sort of thing. And it was the term I Eat Grass came from growing up vegan and kids in the neighborhood being like, what do you eat? You eat grass. Ha 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 ha.
Okay.
It was a tease. And so like it kind of stuck with me. And then from the blog to, later on, I was like, well, I think this is the business name. And then, so it's just kind of been around. It's
That's
just something
cool.
that I feel like I like. And yeah, I don't really have another business name to put on it. You know what I mean?
No,
Oh,
it
that
works
one's
though.
good. And so what is Wildflower?
So during that time of like being unemployed, after I was out of the chef job, I started doing pop-ups. This was like 2011, I think. I was doing pop-up restaurants around New York because I still had my my little fan base there, and I was doing stuff. And so Wildflower was the first vegan like pop-up, like full-on, like almost fine dining pop-up in New York.
That's so cool.
That's
In
cool.
Manhattan. It was in was it Hell's Kitchen? No. It was it was near Chinatown. I remember it, you know, like down my canal. It was,
Yeah.
you know,
for sure.
there was this big restaurant that went out of business, and they gave it to me and to do, or they rented it to me for like 3 days. And I actually did a crowdfunding campaign and met some people who. And this is another thing. It's like another sort of serendipitous thing. Like I decided I wanted to do it. I did this crowdfunding campaign, and then a friend knew a friend who like just put us over the top at the very last minute. And he was like, "I'll give you this money to do it. You know, you can give it back to me or not or whatever." He was just like, you know, one of those rich people who just like, I mean, yeah, go have. I'll support your art.
Yeah,
You
I'll
know
do that.
we love those.
Here's the thing. This tells me we have to have you come back on.
Yeah.
Because your success is larger than an hour. And the golden nuggets in it is just way more than an hour can handle.
Yeah.
Because wildflower is a whole nother conversation that I want to have with you. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I want to know about, you know, what is your idea of fine dining?
Yeah.
And how did you build that? So I want you to promise to come back.
I'll come back for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Now, where can everyone find your mac and yeast? How can we find you?
Yeah, we need those
You know,
social
all
medias
those
too.
social media stuff.
Yes.
You know, I want to make sure we get that in. So how can we find you?
Okay, so my Instagram is Ayinde. It's AYINDE. I was an early adopter. Got my first name, so it's it's just at AYINDE.
That works. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
And then everything is listed there, but the Mac and Yeast is at Mac and Yeast, MACANDYEASE.
Okay.
But you can always just go straight to my page, and I have my links there. That's the best way to find it. And I you know, I love when people send me photos or like tag us in videos and stuff when they get the product, because that always helps. And really like how we recently expanded into Northern California was it was just really like a crowd campaign of like I figured out how people could request it, and then we would just put it up on the socials, and like they request it in their stores in their region, and then they reached out to us. Actually, I didn't have to lobby them. They were like, "Hey, what's this vegan mac and cheese everybody
that
keeps
you got
talking
going
about?"
on in Southern
Yeah.
California. We
Yeah.
want it in the Northern California.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and then tying back into what you were saying earlier about like metrics and stuff. Like the only reason why we got there is because
They were able
my
to
sales are steady and
Exactly.
high here, and we're not on the waste report. So like all restaurants have this waste report, like how much stuff they throw out at night.
Exactly.
So as long as we're not
People
wasting-
crush that. They leave other things on the
Yes.
plate, but they don't leave that on the plate.
They
Exactly.
do not
And that's
leave
when you
mac
know you
and
got
cheese
it.
on the plate.
Exactly.
That's soft gold right
That's
there.
right.
exactly.
That's what we talking
Like, I
about.
should have brought y'all some food. I don't know why I was tripping.
You coming
Next
back?
time. Next time.
Definitely.
Please, I want to
Please,
try
on the
some, man.
next
I want to
one.
definitely connect with you.
Okay.
Well, Ayinde, I want to just thank you so much
Oh, thank you
for
for
coming
having me.
Yeah,
into
absolutely.
the studio and really explaining to us your way and your map to multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
Because there's so many, but yours to me is one of the best stories I've heard so far.
Thank you. And you know, just to cap it off, I feel like it's just I just focused on what I was good at.
Yes.
There you
know.
go. That part.
Yeah, like
Right.
I'm not Kanye, you know.
Right.
I thought I was for a while, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm gonna do what's in my lane and what I'm good at, and then things come from that. Like, you know, because I can pivot off and do other things, but you have to like find that base of like this is the thing that I know I'm good.
And you get to wake up every morning and say, I have a business that's good for people.
Yes.
Exactly.
Which many people who are wealthy and successful can't say,
Cannot
because
say.
the majority of products that have become successful are
Are not
usually
good
bad
for
for
you.
us. Soda, sugar, and
Yeah.
all these things. So, you
Yeah.
know, blessings
Yeah.
for you for that, man.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
you promised to come back on.
I will, for sure.
And we're really excited. And thank you so much for coming into the studio and teaching us about your business.
Absolutely.
I'm Charline.
And I am DJ Bander.
And we're on Dash
Talk
Talk X. Look forward to seeing us every Tuesday
At noon.
12 o'clock noon on Dash Talk X. And we'll see you Tuesday.
That's right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you press that subscribe button. And remember, we are on SoundCloud and anywhere podcasts are found as The Finance Bunch. And find us every Tuesday at noon on Dash Radio on station Dash Talk X. See you soon.